There's always been one part of human history that's really captured my imagination. I'm talking about ancient Egypt. Almost 100 years ago, Howard Carter and his discovery of Tutankhamun crowned a golden age of tomb exploration. But right now, the archaeologists are back.
It's going down very deep.
And the world of Egyptian tombs...
it's full of snake holes.
...is more exciting than ever. Now I'm joining them. I've got a bone here. On the hunt for new tombs. Oh, yes, there's hieroglyphics here. And awesome discoveries. It's the blood of the mummy. If there's one thing we know about the ancient Egyptians, it's that they did death better than anyone else. From mighty pyramids to tombs cut in hillsides, they come in all shapes and sizes and give us an intriguing glimpse into their extraordinary world. I'm heading across Egypt. Oh, God. On a tomb adventure, which has been 4,000 years in the making. This is just like the movies, isn't it? Welcome to a magical land, one that contains more treasures and mysteries than anywhere else on Earth. This is Egypt. And I'm heading to a beautiful but remote spot where the rocky hills on both sides of the Nile squeeze the river to its narrowest point. The secrets of what went on here are now finally being revealed in some remarkable tomb discoveries, which I'm about to join. Whatever happens, I'm in for an adventure. I'm meeting an archaeological double act. For several months a year, this place is both their home and their office. This is really hot. I wish you could feel heat on the telly, but believe me, this is hot. Maria? John, hello.
Tony.
Welcome to the site.
Thank you for letting me... Dr. Maria Nilsson is from Sweden. Her husband, John Ward, is from Hereford. And together, they've been living and breathing this site since 2012.
Is ours.
Can you show me some tombs?
Can I show you some tombs? Come this way.
Great. Among the rocks and sand just yards from the Nile, John and Maria have been systematically revealing a large burial ground known as a necropolis. Quite literally, a city of the dead. Cool, you weren't kidding about a lot of tombs, were you?
Just a few.
But the first stop is their very latest discovery. On the edge of the site, Maria and the team are excavating a small area of sand and rock. Why are you cutting this section back?
We're hoping to lead the way to what's behind you.
Which is... Oh! How interesting. When did you discover that there was actually a slot here?
Yesterday.
And that's true. You're not just saying that for the telly.
That's actually honesty. This was dug yesterday.
This small crack in the rock is man-made. Some more work by the team should reveal the doorway to my first tomb.
The roof is literally here. You can feel it. Feel the roof? Can you feel the chisel marks where my hand is?
Yeah. So no one's been in here. No one has got a clue what's in it.
We've got to take this doorway down at least a metre so you can be possibly the first in the last 3,500 years to be inside that tomb. But why are so many ancient Egyptians buried here on this remote bank of the Nile? You've got to imagine the landscape. There would be men, women and children all working in this area. The local name for this place is Gebel El Silsila, and it was once the engine room of ancient Egypt. Thousands of workers would have been here, quarrying and sculpting the stones that built a great civilization. Look at that! Look at that, John! That's a wondrous sight. Welcome to the galleries.
In the hills above the tombs are the greatest quarry sites of the ancient world, where sandstone was cut from the bedrock to build temples, monuments and statues. It's mercifully cooler than outside.
Imagine what it must have been like in here. You've got the dust, you've got the banging, the chiseling. Look at the height. You've got another 10 meters beneath your feet. You've got to take all this sand out.
So there's 10 more meters of quarried stone under our feet?
All the way down.
There are dozens of quarries like this here at Silsila, and hundreds of people would have worked in each and every one. Somewhere, at some point, the owner of our new tomb must have been involved.
See that niche just there?
Yeah.
That's one block. They're taken systematically, block by block by block by block by blocks.
I see. So they start working from the top, and the steps also provide access as you go further down.
Exactly. They're creating a transportation route all the way down to the Nile.
Many of the workers here served under Egypt's greatest pharaoh, Ramesses II. 1,200 years before Cleopatra, he ruled Egypt at the very peak of its powers and pushed Egyptian building to new heights. But every great pharaoh needed a highly skilled workforce. What's the news?
Well, just 5 minutes ago, down here on the floor area, we found this little chap.
Can I put him in my hand?
Hang on. That's a shapti.
And what is a shapti?
A shapti was the embodiment of a worker or a slave that would have been buried with the dead to help them in the afterlife.
Just like the pharaohs, Egypt's workers liked to be buried with their possessions and ensure they'd be well looked after for eternity.
He would have brought him food, he would have tended to his land. This guy would have been buried with the owner.
But to find that owner, we're going to have to do some digging. Right, let's go in. The sand itself comes away very easily. It's just all the vegetation, isn't it? What do you think the entrance would have looked like in its glory days when it was brand new?
Basically, a slab would have slid all the way in front, and that would have actually sealed this tomb. The Nile was infested with crocodiles.
Oh, yeah. It never occurred to me that a crocodile might lumber up here and eat a mummy.
Now, I'm going to move this block work here, and there's quite a big block. 1, 2, 3.
But beyond the block, there's still a load of debris between me and being able to explore this tomb. It's one of those archaeological highs and lows. I come here, we get a find, we've got the gap which will lead into the tomb, but then we try and open up the tomb, ta-da, it's got loads of sand inside it. But with a bit of help from John's team...
OK, guys, yellow bin.
Our small crack in the rock is beginning to look like a proper entrance.
Tony, after you.
Here I go. There really isn't very much room at all here. I'm absolutely flat on my stomach now. Tell me.
What are you seeing, Tony?
There's a lot of horizontal cut marks. I can see like the shape of what appears to be picks in the ceiling.
Yep, that's the chisel marks.
I'm just going to crawl in a bit more. Will you bear with me? This is a sizable chamber, cut out of the solid rock, most likely 3,500 years ago. But it's almost entirely filled with sand.
Just do be mindful of any critters, though.
If I saw a snake, I'd just have to pretend I was another snake. Oh. Interestingly, there is a hole in the rock and I can see light through.
I guess what you're seeing is the tomb next door.
I see. Yeah, that would make sense. But if this is going to make any more sense, I'm going to have to get out so the expert can get in. Because quite frankly, I don't think the two of us can get in there together.
OK, I see what's happening here. It's full of snake holes.
Oh, really?
Actually, it's a beautiful tomb. It's a lovely chamber.
Yeah.
It's been squared off. I can see the chisel marks to the ceiling. I can see the dress marks to the wall.
What can you tell me about the extent of the tomb?
Well, it's about 3.5 to 4 metres square.
And it's a fairly classy tomb. It's not just a load of old rubbish.
Given its size, it's definitely a worker of some kind of status within the community.
Can we do any more here now?
To be honest with you, not really. I've got 2 metres of sand further beneath me to remove. OK.
Removing this amount of sand slowly and carefully will take several weeks to complete. But this isn't the first rock-cut tomb John and Maria have found. What are we looking for, John? Oh! Come and have a look at this. Wow. 200 yards away is a tomb of similar size, and it shows what might be hidden.
Go on, you go first.
Beneath all that sand. Just take my stuff off, and I will go.
Now, watch your head as you go in, OK?
Yeah. Oh! I thought I was just going to see an empty room, but there's a couple of sarcophaguses here, aren't there?
That's it.
Now, this feels like a real tomb, complete with stone sarcophagi that once contained mummified bodies. Why is there more than one sarcophagus here?
This was a family tomb. We actually had 12 people in here.
12?
However, it had been looted in antiquity.
It appears the mummies had been burned and what remained left scattered around the tomb. Why did they burn them?
Basically, remove the amulets. Any gold, bronze, they burnt the mummies so they could actually take them away.
So it wasn't because they were scared of them?
No, it was purely just robbery. Come on.
So in just one day, I've entered 2 tombs. Took Indiana Jones about half a movie to see a tomb. And round here, they come in all shapes and sizes. Wow, this is huge. Coming up, you could put a London Underground train in here. There's the vast tomb of an Egyptian Prime Minister. I'll see what Ramesses and his workers achieved. This doesn't disappoint, does it? And find what happens when mummification goes wrong. I am holding a 4,000-year-old heart. Welcome back to the colourful world of Egypt. I've been looking for tombs of the men and women who once built a great civilization. But now I've come to Luxor. More than 3,000 years ago, this was Egypt's capital, the seat of Ramesses the Great. So if you want to find big tombs and temples built of stone, Luxor is the place to come. And there's one temple that stands above all others. Karnak. Built with sandstone from Silsila, it became the biggest religious complex in the world. And the signs of one pharaoh's involvement are everywhere. It's that man again. Ramses II, Ramses the Builder. And look at his face there. Absolutely brilliant. Ramses had more than 60 years on the throne and left us with more statues and images of himself than any other pharaoh. He's credited with finishing Karnak's most impressive feature, its gigantic hall of 134 pillars, some almost 80 feet high. This doesn't disappoint, does it? It's absolutely sensational. Imagine when this whole thing had got a sandstone roof to keep out the sun, which was supported by all these sandstone pillars, quarried and prepared at Gebel el Silsila. Mind you, I'm not here just to look at temples. I'm on a hunt for big tombs. Just across the river from Luxor lies the famous Valley of the Kings, where Ramesses himself was buried. His mummy was discovered in 1881. One of the few pharaohs whose body has survived largely intact. But the valley next door is also chock full of big tombs, one of which is being explored for the first time since 1921. Oh, Antonio! Hey. It's quite a walk to your office.
Nice to see you.
Antonio Morales heads an international team working on the tomb of Ipi. Some 700 years before the time of Ramses, Ipi held the exotic title of Vizier to the Pharaoh. What is a Vizier?
A vizier is actually like a prime minister. He was the most powerful man in Egypt under the pharaoh.
As prime minister, Ipi's tomb reflects his status. This is huge.
Welcome to the tomb of Ipi.
You could put a London Underground train in here, couldn't you? The last time archaeologists were here was nearly 100 years ago. They spent just a few days in this tomb, and there's plenty they didn't find. Hello, what's going on down here? This is a surprise. Suddenly it plunges away. The tomb extends 40 metres into the mountain and 20 metres down. Imagine if you were having to carry a mummy down here. It is so steep. After the day of Ipi's funeral, no one was ever meant to go where we're now going. His burial chamber. Oh, wow. That's fantastic. Imagine being buried somewhere this isolated. This giant stone sarcophagus would once have contained Ipi's mummy. So beautiful, I love these grey colours. Thousands of years of dust and dirt are now carefully being removed to reveal the decorations and hieroglyphs. How heavy do you reckon that sarcophagus is?
This is a huge block of 7.5 tons.
So the amount of work that went into bringing this here was absolutely staggering.
Yeah.
And yet we know very little about Ipi, beyond his name and important role. What we do know is that robbers had smashed their way into this chamber long before the first archaeologists made it here.
He couldn't find the corpse, he couldn't find the coffin, and actually we know that most of the tombs in ancient Egypt were stolen some weeks or months after the burial.
That's really interesting, because I always think of tomb robbing as having taken place in the Middle Ages or in the 17th or 18th century. But it could easily have been the mates of the guys who originally put this in.
Exactly.
Who came back a few weeks later.
You are right.
And nicked all the stuff. So Ipi's mummy may have gone missing a full 4,000 years ago. But while we may not have his mummy, the story of Ipi is far from over. In fact, there's been the most grisly of discoveries. Towards the end of last season, the archaeologists had a great find in this discreet little pit. Where is it? Well, as on most archaeological sites, it was right next to the tent where the archaeologists have their breakfast. If I hold this up, then maybe you can get through and I can show you some more about it. Mummification is a really complex process, particularly if you're someone like Ipi, who's very grand. Now, with a bit of luck, the camera's going to be able to adjust to the darkness while I show you these 56 pots, which are all the waste material from Ipi's body, all the cloths, all the gore, all the blood from when he was mummified. Nothing tinged with Ipi's bodily fluids or tissues could be thrown away. So stained bandages and embalming materials were chucked in these pots and stored just outside the tomb. Until now. One of the big tasks this season is to scour through these 56 pots, and already they've had what is my favourite find since I've been in Egypt. OK, so these are some of the finds out of the big jars. Oh, thanks, Ron. Cheers. Now, that was the bandage that went round Ippy's mummy. This, what looks like a white tablecloth, was the wrapping round the mummy, and this, yes, Ippy's blood. Ippy's blood stains. It is like a horror film, isn't it? But the creme de la creme. Antonio, tell us what this is.
Well, this is the heart of the vizier, Ippy.
Can I just say that again? It's the heart of the vizier, Ippy. How did you find that?
Well, it's a surprising discovery. It was found within one of the jars.
Can I hold it?
Yeah, sure.
It is a bit creepy touching this. Feels almost like stone, doesn't it? It feels as though it's been carved. Am I right in saying that even the aorta has been packed with linen too?
Yeah.
Did they know much about the heart?
So in ancient Egyptian thought, the heart is where it resided the intelligence. That's why in the process of mummification, they don't mind basically removing the brain.
But his heart should never have been separated from Ippy's body.
It's a very strange case because usually what they did was remove the heart from the chest of the mummy, mummify it, and then put it back into the chest of the mummy.
Oh, right. It seems that a mummified heart looks a lot like one of the salt bags used to dry out Ippy's body. So they saw something that looked like one of those and chucked it away too.
Exactly.
So they messed up.
Yeah, probably.
I am holding a 4,000-year-old heart. Coming up... This is a funny-looking old thing, isn't it? I find an abandoned Egyptian treasure. It's a sphinx. I'm on the trail of modern tomb robbers.
Welcome, Tony.
And back at Silsila, there's a mysterious discovery. Look down there. That is scary. Do we have any idea what it is? Welcome back to the Nile. I've moved to the southern city of Aswan. On the West Bank, I'm meeting the Egyptian government's Director of Antiquities here in the city. Abdul Menem has agreed to show me some new and unexpected tomb discoveries. How many tombs? 1, 2, 3?
So far, 9 tombs.
9?
9.
Wow. Archaeologists had no idea these tombs existed, but people living close by did. In 2011, while violent uprisings caused chaos across Egypt, some locals shifted sand and smashed their way inside the tombs. So how did the guys move all that earth?
By using mechanical digging loaders and so on. Maybe more than 25, 30 people per night.
So a whole gang?
Yes.
And they weren't doing it subtly and with care, they were just busting it open to see if there was anything gold?
Of course, because the main point for them to steal treasures.
You can still see signs of the robbers' work. A mechanical digger smashed the stone roof of a tomb here. Tomb doorways have been damaged and broken. It's possible these tombs lay undisturbed until a few years ago. And this is the first time anyone has been allowed to film them.
Welcome, Tony.
How beautifully carved this is. Who's this guy?
The owner of the tomb, Imhotep, the ruler of this local area.
Imhotep controlled Aswan around 1450 BC, just a few generations before Tutankhamun and Ramesses the Great. But it's not painted, it's not finished.
That's why this tomb is very, very important and interesting. When you see a tomb like that, it means that it hadn't been finished yet.
Imhotep almost certainly died before work on his tomb was complete. His builders and craftsmen stopped what they were doing so the tomb could be occupied.
But there is one bit of painting, and that's Imhotep's eye.
Oh, fantastic. You have good eyes, Mr. Tony.
It really is quite spooky.
Suddenly, 3,500 years doesn't seem quite such a long time. The robbers may have stolen treasures and artifacts.
It's a bit of a struggle, isn't it?
Yeah.
But they couldn't remove the beautiful artwork on the walls.
Oh, now this is interesting. Look at that colour.
The next door tomb belonged to Usa, ruler of this area during the reign of Tutankhamun's grandfather.
Have you done anything to this painting since you first excavated it?
Nothing. Everything is as it was.
And it's survived like that?
The paintings show Usa, his wife, and his sister-in-law, all of whom are believed to have been buried here.
This is such a privilege. How many people have seen this?
Not more than 20 people.
Not including the archaeologists?
Including the archaeologists.
Oh, wow.
In a few months, a team will return to examine anything not taken by the robbers and explore further chambers, which might yet contain a mummy.
And what happens to the tomb?
We hope to be opened for visitors in the future.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes.
We'd never have found it if it hadn't been for the robbers. Although, don't thank them too much.
Not too much.
50 miles downstream, I'm heading back to Silsila and the extraordinary world of Maria Nilsson and John Ward.
You like those ones that Daddy's got?
When they're not busy with daughter Freya and baby Jonathan, they're systematically revealing the resting places of the men and women who built ancient Egypt.
Nice.
They've now found 70 rock-cut tombs.
What have we got here, then?
But one recent discovery is something quite different. And they've promised me we can tackle it together.
Look down there. That is scary. Do we have any idea what it is?
No, it's unique. All of our tombs are surface tombs.
Yeah.
This is a shaft. Now, I do know it goes for 5 meters straight down.
Yeah.
Because we've dug that out. But as soon as we started moving the sand, the water came.
What I don't understand is, we are in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
All around us, there are tombs which are absolutely dry. Here, suddenly, we've got water like it's an oasis. What's going on?
It could be one of many things. It could be the Nile. It could be just groundwater. It could be surface water from the desert irrigation filling through the fissures, and here we have it here. What I can tell you is the water's warm, it's salty to the taste, and it's clear.
Do you think we can pump it out?
I want to get Shahad and the boys,
Yeah.
I want to get the pumps in, get them going, and hopefully we'll be able to see at least the bottom of the shaft.
That's great.
Come on, boys.
John's got 2 petrol-driven pumps, both with long hoses.
Let's get both these pumps going.
They should be able to suck water from the shaft and dump it into the Nile.
How good are these pumps?
Yeah.
That means, no?
But if the pumps can pump quicker than the water is seeping in, then we should find out if this ancient theatre of heavy industry is about to get a new tomb.
I reckon this is the intensity of sound that would have been going on here 3,500 years ago, beautifully recreated by a petrol pump. Let's hope the pump holds out.
While the water level slowly drops, there's a chance for me to find out a bit more about the people who worked here. On the edge of the old quarries, there's a unique piece of art. Commissioned by Ramesses the Great, it proves how important the people who worked and are now buried here were to him.
So it's like a cartoon, an ancient type of cartoon, that puts us in the footsteps of the ancients. These are the masons with the mallet hitting the chisel. And you see the rectangle in the middle? That's the sandstone block that's just been extracted from the quarry face. You got on the right side a doctor. He's attending an injured worker who's stretching out his leg.
I can see that leg really, really clearly.
Yes.
Yeah.
These are well looked after, skilled masons and craftsmen.
Why do you think it was so significant for Ramesses to show this?
He wants to show that he's the great builder, he's the greatest king of them all. The fact that he had this many men that could be involved in the process of extracting blocks and build all these temples.
So would it be fair to say that these are the people whose tombs that you have been finding?
It appears so, yes.
These skilled workers really were the engine room of Egypt, but we're only just getting to know them. This is a funny looking old thing, isn't it? Oh, I see what it is now. There's a beard here, then there would have been a big head on top of it. It's a sphinx.
Exactly.
But what's it doing here?
Well, Silsileh is not just famous for its quarries. It was a workshop of anything that was made of sandstone.
Why didn't they finish this off and transform
This
it?
poor old girl, unfortunately, due to the cracking, was abandoned.
Oh, yeah, I can see a big crack along there. Oh, imagine if you'd been the mason doing that. Oh, dear. Start again. Nevertheless, you can't help but have immense respect for the skilled workers of Silsileh.
Good boy.
And just maybe the tomb of one or more of them lies hidden in our mysterious shaft. Coming up... Right, let's go down. John and I brave water and mud. I'm going to need a new pair of trousers when I get out of here. To see if we really do have a new tomb.
Oh, Tony, this is a huge chamber.
Welcome back to Gebel El Silsileh. Over there are the remains of ancient Egypt's biggest ever stone quarries. A little bit further on down there are the tombs of some of the people who worked in those quarries 3,500 years ago. These people built Egypt into the greatest civilization of the ancient world. But on their trail are Maria Nilsson and John Ward.
Usha.
This is the dream team.
They're tackling one of their most intriguing discoveries yet.
Young men, they're going over the canal.
A large vertical shaft, which despite being in the desert, is full of water. But with John's pumps just about holding out...
Going down quick.
He's promised that he and I can be the first to find out if this shaft leads to a new tomb. Oh, that's better. Oh, what a relief. With the water gone, we're faced with a very deep man-made pit. It's remarkably perpendicular, isn't it? But at the bottom, there's already what looks like an opening, an entrance maybe, that could lead to something else. We're going down.
Let's make it so, shall we?
Yeah.
I'll go first. I can guide you down then.
But now the pumps are off, the water's seeping back in.
Okay.
Right, let's go down. It's just this initial bit that's so scary, isn't it? Oh. It's almost 20 feet to get to the bottom of the pit. And what's down there, we don't know. I've got my diving boots on because John said he didn't want me to wear my ordinary shoes because when I'm in the mud, he doesn't want me crushing anything. Oh.
You're doing really well there, Tony.
Thanks, mate. Oh. Well, there's still a load of water in here.
And it's rising.
Oh. I'm going to need a new pair of trousers when I get out of here. Mind you, I am anyway because I'm so scared. Wherever this water's coming from, it's flowing in quickly through the mysterious opening.
Wow.
That is astonishing, isn't it? Now we're down here, it's clear this really is an entrance. Even a doorway.
Portcullis closure. Look at it.
Oh,
where the slab would have gone all the way through.
This is just like the recess for a medieval portcullis in a castle, isn't
That's it, exactly.
It would have come straight down over here, protected the front of the door, so that nobody could get in. This is a proper tomb, isn't it?
Exactly. It's pretty dark, though. We're going to need some lights.
Yes, please.
Can we have some lights down here, please?
The lengths that the ancient Egyptians went to plan and build this inaccessible space are staggering.
Right. Lights?
Yeah.
Okay. Shall we put these in there together? Wow. Oh. This is a huge chamber. Look at it. You see that in the back?
Oh, yeah.
Is that a door? Is that a niche? What is that?
Hang on, let's get in. I'll try and stick this light.
Is that pottery next to you?
In Egyptian tombs, broken pottery is perhaps the most common of all finds.
It's a beer jar.
But there's a few things here that aren't pottery.
Skeleton remains.
This is just like the movies, isn't it?
Look at this.
What do you reckon would be in there?
I really don't know. It's totally different to any of our tombs that we found at Sorcelani. If that secondary chamber is another burial, we're not talking about just a family, we're talking about 50, 60 people plus.
And all their bits and pieces are mixed in beneath our knees.
Yeah.
Human soup. The idea that so many workers might have been buried down here is pretty eerie. And someone at least must have been of real status. This chamber has been carefully chiselled out, and this doorway beautifully finished.
What's intriguing me is that the ceiling is vaulted.
What do you mean by vaulted?
Well, it's got an arch to it. But I'm not seeing any painted, I'm not seeing any names, I'm not seeing any writing.
What can you see?
Are you seeing that?
Yeah.
It's a central painted line down the entire alignment.
What do you think its function is?
It's basically to allow the stoneworkers, the guys who are actually hewing this chamber out,
To do it equally each side?
exactly,
Yeah.
to give them a central alignment from the doorway, and that goes all, let's follow it. It's going all the way to the centre of that doorway.
There seems no doubt there's another key part of this tomb beyond this second doorway.
And that's completely flooded.
Do you think we could get that pumped out?
If we can get the pumps further in here, we can probably take that water level down. Ahmed!
Yeah.
Can you try and bring the other pump in here?
Yes. If the hose is long enough, we may just get to see what's beyond the door.
I don't know if you felt it, but it's warm water.
Yeah.
It can't be coming from the Nile, so therefore it has to be some kind of natural reservoir under the mountain, or it's coming from the desert, from irrigation, just naturally filtering through.
And as the water level inside this chamber goes down...
What's that next to you?
Oh, yeah. What is it? There's a discovery in the very far corner.
Looks like a handle.
Yeah, it's a pot. It's a big pot. There's a huge pot here. Do you want to hold the...
I'm here.
little camera for a moment. Look how far it goes. This is massive. It goes on right down. I'm fairly sure we've discovered a large amphora. I can even feel the rounded bottom of the great jar.
I'm right on the end of it, and the top's here, isn't it?
Yeah. It must be at least 2 foot tall, mustn't it? In all my years of finding pottery, I've never found anything like this. It's like a huge whale. What do you reckon it was used for?
It would have held some kind of food substance that was buried with the dead. Now, what I love is that it's actually intact. That is beautiful.
But unfortunately, it's lying on its side and stuck fast in the mud. And we wouldn't be able to get it out now.
No, without having to really remove all of this mud and silt that's stuck in there.
Well, that alone was worth coming to Egypt. But now, there's a fresh problem. What happened?
The pump's broken.
With one motor out of action, there's no way we can keep the water level down inside the tomb.
This is actually going to start rising any moment soon. What I want to do is get as close to that doorway as possible. Let's have a good peek in there, and then I think we should bug out.
Okay. If I wasn't wet and muddy already... I am now.
What do you think, Tony?
Well, it just goes on and on, doesn't it?
I mean, this is fantastic. It is a vaulted ceiling again. I mean, that's a good, 4 or 5 meters? We don't know where the walls are. All we're seeing is ceiling. That means this chamber could be huge.
Whatever is in front of us, this is a first for me. Elbow deep in silt and water, 5 meters underground, in a tomb built 3,500 years ago. This is about all we're going to be able to do, isn't it?
I think this is it, mate. I think we need to get out of here before this water really starts to rise.
Entering a space like this is a real adrenaline rush. But for this tomb, this is just the beginning. Until a way can be found to hold back the water, you get the feeling this place, its occupants, and my pot will hold on to their secrets. What an amazing adventure. We know where these people worked, we know what their achievements were, we know where they died, but there's still so much about them that we don't know. So many mysteries. From the giant tomb of a prime minister to the mysterious burials of people who built a great civilization. This has been a window into Egypt at the peak of its powers. And for John and Maria, the rest of their working lives is here, under their noses. It's work that most archaeologists can only dream of. "4,000 years ago, this was ancient Aswan's most important burial ground. It might look like any other old rocky, sandy slope rolling down to the river, but this is much, much more. This is a necropolis, a city of the dead. And today, it's a hive of activity once more, with archaeologists coming from all over the world and making the most amazing tomb discoveries. And one of them has said that I can join him. Archaeologist Dr. Martin Bomas has been digging in southern Egypt for nearly 30 years. More than anyone, he knows that beneath the sand and rubble here, there are still many tombs to find. This is your first day here?
It is.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Martin's starting a new 3-week dig season. And he's brought his biggest team ever, including archaeology students, trainee lecturers, a leading pottery expert, and 22 all-important diggers.
You've got hundreds of tons of sand in a great arc round here. How on earth did you decide where you wanted to put your energy for the next few weeks?
So our focus for our excavation period this time is just the hill in front of us, you know, the big mound of rubble.
High up this slope are some of the biggest tombs in southern Egypt. Many were found over a century ago with the help of a young Howard Carter, long before he found fame discovering Tutankhamun. But there are large parts of this site that have never been touched.
So here's the River Nile here,
That's
which is
correct.
down in that direction.
Yes. We're currently standing here,
Right.
looking up the hill, which from the Nile looks like a massive sand dune falling into the Nile.
So have all these been discovered then?
Yes. So these are all tombs that have already been excavated.
And where's your site on this map?
So this is the area we're going to work on.
Martin's team will now be working a 6-day week to try and prove that there are undiscovered tombs here.
But they've only got 3 weeks to do it. After that, the temperature will get so ridiculously hot that the whole digging season in Egypt comes to an end. And in addition, this year, they've got me and a camera team to contend with. So no pressure.
While they get started, I've been given special access to a tomb that's already been excavated here at the City of the Dead. But it's a heck of a climb to get there.
Our necropolis is tied together by a series of causeways like this one. They're sort of ancient staircases that ascend from the river. The dead would have been processed up here as part of their funeral. At least, if they weren't dead at the bottom, they would have been by the time they got to the top.
To be fair though, climbing the causeways is well worth the effort.
Who wouldn't want to be buried up here?
For at least 500 years, the most important people in southern Egypt were buried at this necropolis. The pharaoh himself gave permission for new tombs to be built. And right now, I'm looking for one of the very grandest.
This extraordinary courtyard dominates the whole of this side of the cliff, swinging all the way around here as well. Imagine what this would have looked like originally when it was beautifully polished and sanded. And this was just the place where people gossiped about you after you died. The tomb itself is in here. Wow, isn't this magnificent? It's a privilege just to stand here. This is the tomb of a guy called Saramput II, who was governor here a mere 3,860 odd years ago. And look at these stone columns, all of them hewn out of the solid rock. They haven't been painted. This, what appears to be decoration, is just the lines in the rock itself.
The governor Saramput was one of Egypt's local rulers controlling regions on behalf of the pharaoh. Here on the southern border, Saramput protected the gateway to the rest of Africa.
And now we come to a corridor where there's a statue of him. He's lost his head, but apart from that, he's great. Here's one with its head still intact. And I think, yep, another one here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 statues. Look at the eyes on that one, staring at us across time. So where's Saramput? Well, I'm told that his mummy was never found. It was robbed, I suppose, hundreds, even thousands of years ago because of all the jewels that would probably have been on it.
So as for the man himself, all that's left now is a painting in a little cupboard. Back outside, the team are looking for the next big tomb. But already Martin's discovered something else, the sort of find that could only happen in Egypt.
There's your first mummy.
What?
Look at that.
This is a mummy?
Well, that's the upper part of a mummy only.
Oh, extraordinary.
Because the pelvis is just around your back. Look at that. That's the pelvis.
Tapping me on the shoulder.
Yes.
This remarkable find, a headless mummy, simply appeared this morning as the wind blew just enough sand away to reveal it. Do you think that this would originally have been in a stone tomb?
Yes, but perhaps the dogs pulled it out.
Is there anything that we can say about this mummified body?
So what we're looking at here is just the torso. The legs are missing. It's lying on its tummy. You see the arm here.
This is his arm?
Exactly, yes. This seems to be the elbow.
Just here, yeah?
Yes, leading up to the shoulder,
The shoulder?
where your finger is. And it must have been burned as well, because it's rather black here. But look at the mummy bindings. They're such a good quality. Look at the quality of the linen here. That's really nicely done indeed. Such a wonderful quality. It's just great stuff. Must have been a very rich person.
Am I allowed to touch it?
Yes, of course.
Oh, it's quite snake-like, isn't it?
All right.
And although it's hard, it's not solid, you feel as though you could press it in.
Yeah, well, it's hollow inside.
Why is that?
Because they took out the internal organs, which were preserved separately, according to Egyptian custom.
How old do you think it is?
Well, I believe it's a Roman mummy.
I didn't know there were such things as Roman mummies.
Well, they adopted, you know. The Romans had a very strong presence here in Aswan.
So this mummy is about 2,000 years old?
It is.
And the tombs we're looking for are about 4,500 years old. So there's more time between our tombs and this mummy than there is between this mummy and us.
That's correct, yes.
My first mummy discovery is proof of how much waits to be discovered here just beneath the surface. Elsewhere around the dig, the finds are less grisly, but more likely to point to new tombs. The sandy slopes of Martin's dig site are littered with ancient bricks made out of mud. That is not rock, is it? It's clearly man-made. But at the end of day one, the most definite find so far
The 1, 2, 3 levels and perhaps a 4th level
is what's running straight up the hill. Look, can you see how here this is all loose sand? Well, that's what this whole area was like at the beginning of the day. But now, since they've done all the work, can you see how hard that is, how impacted? All of this is a man-made surface, and what we think it is the pavement of a causeway that once went from here, whoosh, right the way up to there. And at this City of the Dead, previous causeway discoveries have led the way to big tombs. If Martin's right and he is digging in the right place, then we could be about to reveal a brand new chapter in the story of the City of the Dead. How cool would that be, to be the first people to uncover and enter a great Egyptian tomb? Which reminds me that when Howard Carter was excavating the tomb of Tutankhamun, he chiselled a little hole in the door of the tomb and he peered in, and behind him was his sponsor, Lord Carnarvon. And Carnarvon was going, "Carter, can you see anything?" And Howard Carter said, "Yes, wonderful things." Coming up, I'm on the trail of a missing pharaoh. Oh, wow. But among the pyramids, there's an unexpected turn. You don't see something like this every day. And it leads to my deepest tomb yet. This does feel a bit Indiana Jones. Oh, yes! I've been looking for tombs at ancient Aswan's greatest burial ground. This site rose to prominence over 4,000 years ago, whilst elsewhere in Egypt the pharaohs were busy building pyramids. I've travelled over 400 miles north of Aswan.
Oh, God!
But this is no sightseeing tour.
I thought we were going to go over the edge there.
Dr. Vasko Dobrev has been working in the desert outside Cairo for the past 30 years, and he's on the hunt for a new pyramid.
What is a pyramid?
A pyramid. The pyramid is the tomb of the king. But there is something more. In the pyramid, he will resurrect. He can go up to the sky.
Pyramid points towards the heavens, helping a deceased pharaoh to take their place among the gods.
How many of these pyramids are there?
About 120.
Wow.
About 120 all around Egypt.
Often we only think of the famous pyramids of Giza, but this site, called Saqqara, boasts the first pyramid and a great many more.
Why Saqqara, Vasko? Why did so many pharaohs build their pyramids here?
Well, for a very simple reason. Saqqara is exactly in front of the capital of Egypt, Memphis.
And where's Memphis now?
Just behind there, behind the hill. See the green palm trees?
Yeah.
This is Memphis from the time of the pyramids.
Pyramids here span 6 centuries of Egyptian history. But one dynasty of pharaohs in particular chose to build their magnificent tombs in Saqqara.
You see the small pyramid? This is Pepi II. His father's here, his great-grandfather is just behind, all the families around.
Some of the pyramids are in a sorry state. Over centuries, their beautiful outer layer of stone has been stolen. But the key to Vasko's thinking is that some pyramids may never have been completed.
We're climbing up the plateau. I have to accelerate a little bit not to get stuck, huh?
I have a feeling you really enjoy driving this vehicle.
Yeah.
We're heading to a flat plateau top. The site, Vasko believes, of an undiscovered pyramid.
Which pharaoh do we think we're talking about here?
So maybe we have here the pharaoh Userkare.
And how long did he last?
That's the problem. He didn't reign for a long time, maybe 3-4 years. He cannot finish a 52-meter high pyramid in 3 years.
Userkare may only have had time to create his pyramid's base and construct his burial chambers beneath it.
OK, so this is the big question. We've got activity all over the place, so why do you think the pyramid is right here?
First of all, we are on the good height.
Yeah.
We discovered that all these pyramids that are in Saqqara, they are on the same level. So there is a kind of pyramid level. And here we have his father to the north, his son is just there, his grandson, Pepi II, is behind. So you see, from north to south, this family is following one after the other. And we have something else, new technology, geophysics.
Geophys!
Electromagnetic waves. We have something with right angles. This is not naturally made. We have a kind of square here, 80 by 80 meters, which is exactly the size of the pyramid of that period.
But Vasko's most telling evidence by far is just 50 yards from where he believes the pyramid to be.
Here we are.
Oh! You don't see something like this every day, do you? Wow! Look at all this.
Over the last few years, Vasko has unearthed tomb after tomb.
We have more than 60 tombs on the surface already.
And these are sizable tombs for important Egyptians. They must have had good reason to be here.
If you have people here, they don't come just by chance. It's because there is somebody important just behind.
So this isn't only fantastic archaeology in its own right. This is cast iron evidence that people came here because there's a king buried somewhere around here.
Exactly.
And Vasco's keen to show me his latest discovery. On the edge of his site is an unusual chessboard-like structure, dating from just after the time of our missing pharaoh. This is huge, this area here, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an enormous structure, 12 by 12 meters, and you have 23 shafts.
Each of these shafts should lead to a tomb. And there's one that Vasco's started to explore.
Look at it.
Oh my goodness, yeah. It's deep. And there's no way Vasco's letting me leave without joining him
Like this, yeah.
on a little adventure.
Maybe after some...
Right, just popping back 4,000 years. Not more than a handful of people have ever been down this shaft. At least not for a few thousand years.
Catch. Just catch the handle.
Yeah, I'm holding onto the handle like crazy.
That's it.
At 15 metres, this shaft is deeper than 3 double-decker buses at all. What are these depressions in the side of it here?
That's how the Egyptians were going down. They didn't use like us ropes. They were going attached to the mountain itself.
Oh no!
Yeah,
That's extraordinary. These little rudimentary steps.
Yes. With bare feet, you can do it.
That would be absolutely terrifying, wouldn't it? When you started digging, had you any idea that you would go down as far as you actually did?
Absolutely not. I was expecting to go not more than 4-6 meters.
Yeah. And what happened when you got down that far?
Then I was expecting to find the chamber, the funerary chamber.
Yeah.
Nothing. So I had to continue 7, 8, 9, 10, nothing.
Yeah.
So I didn't know where to go, huh?
Have we got any idea what the name was of the man who was buried down here?
His name is Ankhti, which means I'm alive.
I hope he's not alive now.
Welcome to the bottom of the shaft.
Thank you. OK, I'm down. Like many of his neighbours here, our tomb owner, Ankhti, was a priest.
So let's take out the lights.
There we go. A priest laid to rest over 4,200 years ago.
So Tony, you can go first.
Oh, this does feel a bit Indiana. Oh, yes, there's hieroglyphics here. Do you know, I thought it would just be an empty cave. I didn't realise that it would be decorated like this. This is beautiful. These are the oldest paintings and hieroglyphics I've ever seen. Was it filled with sand?
It was filled with sand until here. You see the trace, you see?
Just down there.
Yes, like this. Not completely filled. And down there, we found the body of the priest.
Down here?
Exactly, on his place.
Where I am now. The body of Ankhti was not in a good state. At this time, over 2,000 years before Cleopatra, mummification wasn't far advanced. The body tissue had rotted away, and Ankhti's bones are about all that survive. They've been removed and will be studied and x-rayed in due course. Still here, though, are the fantastic images of offerings to sustain Ankhti in the afterlife.
Here, the food offerings, the best choices of meat, some salads, also to drink, maybe milk or even wine. In the antiquity, they had a lot of nice wine.
And you've got this big sand line again down
exactly
here.
The same.
And then you've got this red rectangle at the bottom.
And yes, here we're coming to the most important part of the tomb, the door. This is a door. Because when he'll resurrect, he has to go out. He wouldn't stay here. That's not the way he imagined his life after death. Through this door, he will go out to the light.
This beautiful art was painted over 4,000 years ago and 15 metres underground. Tomb decoration like this was fashionable during the reign of Uncti's pharaoh, Pepi II, whose name appears inside the tomb. So perhaps Uncti's job as a priest was to service the tomb of Pepi's grandfather, the missing pharaoh Usakari.
I'm coming up, lads. Hold on to that rope.
But is Usakari's tomb hiding in the sand just yards away? It's a spine-tingling thought. And between here and there, there's already a great many more tombs to find.
Oh, it's extraordinary to get out into the fresh air again. You know, down there, what we saw was so stunning. And up here, there must be, I don't know, the possibility of 50, 60, 100 more shafts, just like that one. Now, if we found that down there, imagine what people might find us sometime in the future. Sorry, I'm so out of breath.
Coming up,
I thought you and I could take a little trip down the Nile.
I'm back in Aswan, where the dangers of tomb hunting become clear. But the hard work does finally pay off.
A tomb!
Yes!
Yay! We've got a tomb!
Welcome back to Egypt, where I'm returning to Aswan's ancient city of the dead.
Looks pretty good in the morning light, doesn't it?
Dr. Martin Bomas and his team are on the hunt for new tombs. And while I've been away, there's been some progress. Archaeology student Dominica Chop is busy revealing a whole new structure.
Dominica!
Oh, hello.
Sorry, I didn't mean to startle you, but this is looking really promising, isn't it?
Yes.
What do you think it is?
It's a tomb.
A tomb!
Yes.
Yay! We've got a tomb. This is what we came here to find.
I know.
It's a very little tomb, or at least it looks it from
Oh,
here.
it's not the entrance to it. There's an entrance there.
That does look more like something you'd see in a movie if you were looking for a tomb. Wow! So why aren't you ploughing ahead with this straight away?
We're very keen to. However, we have to first assess how big it is.
So with a bit of patience, our city of the dead is going to have a new tomb. What's more, there appears to be more than one.
And if I look behind me, I can see some little blocks here.
And right behind you.
Just here, this is another one.
Yes.
Wow, so there's a whole load of them here.
It looks like there might be streets of them.
And do you think they would go right up the hill?
Yes.
But to properly reveal even one of them, there's a heck of a lot of sand to be shifted. So before I get roped into any serious work,
I thought you and I could take a little trip down the Nile. Hi, Mohammed.
Good.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
If Martin does find a mummy, the question, of course, is going to be whose was it and what did they do before they ended up on the hillside? Well, I'm told there are some clues which might answer that, just on the far end of that island.
4,000 years ago, just like today, the vast majority of Egyptians lived very close to the Nile. And you don't get much closer than Elephantine Island, where the people buried at the City of the Dead once lived.
For centuries, the town here at Elephantine Island was the hub of southern Egypt. It was so well protected with the Nile on all sides. This was a street with a lot of houses along here and houses on this side too.
Some of these buildings have been reconstructed in recent years, but there's one that definitely hasn't.
This is like going into the
back room of a really big museum. Oop. And in theory, it should be the grandest building in town. This, believe it or not, is the Governor's Palace, the place where the elite of Elephantine Island lived, and when they died there'd have been a funeral procession starting here, and then they would have gone down to the Nile, sailed all the way round, and then been buried in their beautifully carved tombs. But what really gets me is this wall. Look at it. Frankly, it's rubbish, isn't it? It's mud brick. It's dotted with little chips and bits of shell. They appear to have spent far more money on what happened when they were dead than when they were alive, which I suppose does make sense in a strange kind of way. After all, you are a long time dead. On the other side of the river, at the City of the Dead, the governors of Elephantine picked the very best spots for their tombs and built grand causeways to access them from the river. But at the top of his newly discovered causeway, Martin hasn't found a tomb, but a mysterious stone wall.
What we have here now is perhaps the end of the causeway. So we want to find out more by digging deeper with the trowel.
The end of the causeway should point the way to a large tomb. But excavating anything this old on such a steep slope is a dangerous operation.
Cannot go too far, so the whole thing doesn't crumble.
The whole thing's moving. The whole thing's moving.
Yeah.
I really suggest you get out of the path of that. Sand is coming out from the behind.
Okay.
One of the giant blocks holding up the wall has shifted a good 6 inches. The rest of the wall hasn't budged yet, but there's a real risk it could collapse.
We cannot go any further. The tombs must be behind the retention wall. We have to think very carefully whether next year or so we'll remove the wall in order to follow the causeway. But not this year. Otherwise we risk the lives of our workmen.
The hunt for tombs is rarely straightforward, and here in particular there are risks and dangers. But luckily, Martin and the team have already found at least one new tomb. So a few days later, I'm returning to the lower part of the causeway to check on progress. Martin?
Oh, hello, Tony.
This has come on fantastically, hasn't it?
Yeah.
What a lot of work you put in. You can really see that it is a proper road now, can't you?
Yes, exactly. It's 3 meters wide and 92 meters long.
And, of course, where there are causeways, there are tombs. How's that panned out?
Well, just look behind you.
Hey!
It looks very different, right?
That's come on too, isn't it? Goodness. That really is an entrance.
Yes, it is.
That's great. So what's this bit here?
Well, we believe this is the offering niche.
Sorry, offering niche is not a phrase I've ever heard before.
Well, a tomb in ancient Egypt needs to have 2 things in order to be operational. A burial chamber and a place where the living can donate offerings to the deceased.
And that's that thing here?
Exactly.
Have you got any idea yet how old this tomb is?
Oh, we were so lucky, Tony. The offering niche I was just talking about, we found an intact pot that people left there for the deceased, untouched.
Oh, result, perfect dating evidence.
Exactly. The pot dates to 2430 BC. We can date it rather precisely.
So that is around about 4,500 years old.
It's also the oldest tomb that we have found so far. It's almost a little bit older than the pyramids in Giza, so it's a pyramid age, just the beginning of it.
Really, really old. So what happens here now at the big money end?
Well, actually, we're looking for someone who is going to volunteer to go down that shaft and look into the burial chamber.
So this is the same kind of age as the Pyramid at Giza.
It is indeed.
And I'm going there.
Yes, if you want to.
That's so cool.
Coming up,
so we have a problem.
The dangers of this steep site return.
How did it appear? Did it just slump in?
Before I'm finally allowed to peek inside the tomb.
This may be the last time you'll ever see me.
"4,000 years ago, this hillside of rock and sand overlooking the River Nile was the most important burial ground in southern Egypt. In the past fortnight, it's been the focus of attention once again.
Dr. Bomas and his team are in the last week of their dig season. They've already discovered a tomb which has lain hidden for thousands of years.
It may be the oldest tomb found so far in the City of the Dead.
And Martin has invited me to be the first person to go inside.
But as soon as I arrive on site, it's clear things aren't going to plan.
Tamam.
Martin!
Hey, Tony.
Do we have a problem?
I don't know as yet. There seems to be a hole, and through this hole, sand trickles in.
How did it appear? Did it just slump in?
Yeah, it just slumped in. There must be some void underneath here. There might be another tomb, or it's part of the tomb we are currently working on.
It's so difficult excavating in sand. If we were in English clay, everything would stay where it was for 24 hours.
Exactly.
Here, you dig something, 5 minutes later, it's just gone.
Yes, it seems that there's something underneath that sucks all the sand into one place, which we have to assess first. Perhaps the entire area is too weak.
Events like this show just how unpredictable and dangerous Egyptian archaeology can be. But while Martin decides if it's safe to enter, I'm going to see a remarkable discovery made by the dig team. The beautifully preserved pot, left as an offering for our tomb's owner. It's now being examined by pottery expert Dr. Iman Khalifa.
It is actually the sort of find that archaeologists dream of, isn't it?
It is. We don't come across complete pots here very easily. It's in situ, which means that it was exactly where they left it. What's so special about it is the way it was manufactured. The top part is wheel thrown, and you can see the marks and the lines of the wheel. But the bottom part is made by hand, and you can see the fingers of the potter who modeled it.
Can I touch it? I've got my gloves on. Thanks. So what does that tell you about the dating of it?
It tells us that this was actually made at a certain period when they were using two techniques.
So what is the date that you're pretty confident of?
4,430 years.
4,430 years. That is massively old, isn't it?
Yeah.
Look at this. Over the years, I must have held up hundreds of pots towards the camera, but I don't think I've ever held one that has been such clear dating evidence from so long ago. Give it back before I squeeze it too hard.
Oh, please don't.
500 feet away, the mysterious landslip has stabilised. And Martin has agreed to let me be the first person to look inside our tomb.
I don't think Howard Carter had to cope with all this rubbish. I'm ready, Martin.
Hi, Tony.
Hi. Just turn everything on.
Look very prepared, so let's get inside. You first.
It's very steep and it feels quite precarious. There is something rather eerie about going into a 4,000-year-old tomb.
That's true.
This may be the last time you'll ever see me.
Take care. Be sure that you only do what you're really comfortable with.
Sure, sure.
All right.
Yeah. Well, the first thing that I can see is that the ground itself at the bottom of the slope appears to be hard rock. And the actual tomb is hacked out of that. So it's not mud brick or anything. Hold on. To my left, there's a niche, a little recess.
Oh, that's good news. That's what we would expect.
A space like this would have stored pots, plates and food offerings to help our owner reach the afterlife.
Is there anything left there?
No. Were you hoping it would be full of something?
It might be the case that someone's been in there, but it doesn't mean that they went any further.
All right, well, I'll go on a bit now.
Can you tell me whether you're facing a corridor right now?
I am.
And does it go left or right? That's important for me to know.
Well, it certainly doesn't go right. It's curving round to the left, but there's a load of sand here. Yeah, there's definitely a tunnel to the left, but it's completely blocked off.
Perhaps the sand comes from the hole that emerged today morning.
Well, I'm no sand expert, but some of it does seem quite fresh, I must admit.
Oh.
I can't really go any further than this.
Well, then don't, you know, you have to be safe, most of all.
Yeah.
Because if it's indeed connected with the hole, then even more sand would come down on you.
Yeah.
But you see, the left turn would have led us to the burial chamber.
So the burial chamber's there, but we just can't get at it right now.
Yes, I'm afraid so.
Hey, in the sand, I've got a bone. Just above it, there's some pottery.
Oh, good.
And just below it, there is not only some pottery, but I've got a bead.
Oh,
Yay!
great.
I've got 2 beads.
Oh, that's great, Tony. I come and join you.
Okay.
Just hang on. Oh, it's nicely cool down here.
It is.
All right.
Come over here.
There's the bone.
Yeah, I'll show you the bone. Here we go.
That's great. Seems to be the end of a pelvis.
Now.
And what about the beads you were promising?
Okay. Ready? 1, 2.
Oh, look at that. Look at that.
There we are.
Wonderful.
Ah, like little eggs, aren't they?
Yeah, 2 round faience beads.
What does faience mean?
Faience, that is a certain type of quartzite-made jewelry, glazed with cover that turns blue. The color Egyptian blue comes from that.
And you reckon it would have been a necklace?
Yes, absolutely, yes. It must have been a necklace. Well, these are expensive.
And what a privilege it is to hold something so personal to our tomb's owner. Well, this clearly hasn't got all the shiny pillars and statues associated with the tomb of a governor, but there's a lot of work here, isn't there?
Well, you know, was probably the second man in line. He had access to a fantastic burial site, had engineers excavating out of the standing rock.
This may not be the grandest tomb at the City of the Dead, but it might be one of the oldest. It could mark the moment almost 4,500 years ago when this important burial ground was established on Egypt's southern border. Given what we found here, what might you expect to find when you eventually do manage to shift all that sand?
Well, you probably have 2 meters of work here, and then we might face a burial chamber that includes a sarcophagus, a wooden sarcophagus, hopefully, or perhaps 2 sarcophagi. We still have to solve the question of whether these beads belong to a man or a woman, or a man and a woman being buried here.
Oh, I see it. But unfortunately, that work will have to wait until Martin's next digging season. Thanks. Right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, yay! Have we go?
Good.
I like to see
Well
these
done.
in the clear light of day
Oh,
now.
wonderful. Look at those.
Oh, beautiful.
Yes.
Well,
great find.
Thanks for all that. We now know where the tomb chamber is. We got our lovely find. To be continued. Hopefully see you next year. See you, mate.
Bye, Tony. Thanks for coming.
For me, the fascination of Egypt lies in its unending mysteries. We're still looking for a pharaoh's missing pyramid. We're just beginning to know the thousands who built ancient Egypt. And tombs we've known for a century are still throwing up surprises.
It's the blood of the mummy. But what really strikes me is the sheer scale of what's still left to be found. Aswan's City of the Dead certainly hasn't given up all of its tombs, not by a long chalk. And for archaeologists like Martin, it's a real privilege and just plain exciting to be uncovering new tombs, unveiling new secrets, and adding just a small chapter to the story of this incredible land.
And don't miss Tony trying his hand at sailing a skiff, the boating equivalent of a camper van. New series The Thames, Britain's Great River continues Tuesday at 8. Next tonight, two brothers cross a line. Courtney Love stars in the drama premiere of the Menendez Killings, Blood Brothers, after the break.